10 days, and I'm subscribed to them. So I see them and I repost them. And as a matter of fact, I always repost them to Safer Mish. But I have been watching every day since December 6th for an MSP legal update on MRTMA or Proposition 1.
Or hemp.
And I have not seen one.
You think
and it's been more than 90 days.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the Michigan State Police Forensic Science Division # Crime Factory has addressed this issue as to the cannabis sativa L Plant being a Schedule 1 still? Number one. Number two, whether they're able to distinguish whether or not...
Why are we doing this anymore?
I mean, if there was ever some exposure to the biggest hoax that could exist on the planet, you should have seen them trying to defend a 2016 policy that they've like overruled and standing strong defending it. I mean, they when I say a hoax, I mean a hoax in terms of that there's any scientific credibility that should be associated with them at all. I don't know how we got to that. I feel like I want to talk about the crime.
I suspect, Michael, you got a lab report that said synthetic THC. Did it have those magic words?
They had those magic words from a case in 2016, Alan, that they're still defending that despite the fact that we sued them, and only because they changed their policy to not do that and not report it that way. And as I read to the judge, I said, the only reason that there's no immediate harm to my client, other than Max Lorenz, and people like Max Lorenz, because as it should be, a judge would dismiss the case in the state court, and you wouldn't need to be here in federal court, and you should rely on the state court judge to find that if that's the fucking shit that's reported by the crime lab, then they don't even have probable cause that a crime has been committed, because on its face, we don't know what the fuck it is.
Alan's question is an excellent one. They drive by a field of hemp. And the answer is there reasonable suspicion to stop? Is there probable cause to believe that a crime is being committed or evidence of a crime is found? What Kazmierzak says is, in spite of the MMMA, in spite of all of this, marijuana remains Schedule 1 controlled substance, and its mere presence constitutes contraband, justifying a raid, justifying a search.
Well, wait a second. Kazmierzak was 1997, so it predated the MMMA.
You're right, but Brown
it doesn't say it. Yeah, okay, Brown.
But then there's Aaron Clark.
Yeah. All right.
So is it reasonable suspicion
do I need to wait? Do you think I need to
property or?
But anyway, there's no simple answer for that. You can't just pull out a magic wand and say this is 0.3% THC. Is there a simple test? Is there a simple test?
There's
excuse me.
Theoretically, when the regulatory goals are all in place, there'll be every farmer ends up saying, "I'm growing industrial hemp. This is its location. You have to specify the amount that you're growing and where you're growing." So I'm pretty sure that there would be,
it's going to be worse than that. I mean, it could default back to the, especially if it's this year, for example, and it's designed in a manner that has high-level regulations and inspections and right.
Well, and they're still trying to figure all that out. But the quick answer that I had, mind you, again, the nice thing about being an industrial trainer is you don't know anything, and you just make all these assumptions until you're told you're wrong, and. So I remember driving out in rural areas, and where they would be growing corn, they would put up a sign with a big picture of corn. You'd go, "Oh, that's corn." So maybe there'll just be an official state industrial marijuana plant sign, and that would be, of course, it could be false, but that would be the first reasonable thing that a police officer would think. It would be suspect, and then they would have to investigate,
Well, and it also just occurred to me, the way that the current Michigan Hemp Research and Development Act, the one that they implemented, that they passed during the lame duck session, the way as it stands, I believe that the license holder submits to 24/7 investigation by law enforcement, any law enforcement. It's one of the things that we believe is unconstitutional about the statute itself.
All I know is that they're required during the grow of industrial hemp, they're required to do testing 3 times and determine whether it's more or less than 3%. The issue is that it's all, again, so new, and nobody really knows the seed stocks that they have, and are they going to go hot for one particular reason or another, because no one can really validate the kind of seeds that are available. And there's probably, and I get to be unclear and don't know anything. I would think, depending on the time of day, or if it's hot outside, or if it's cold, and whether you're choosing to test a leaf or test a flower or test the stem, that it's likely to be all different. So how do you do that?
You just anticipated my next question. My next question was, what matters to the hemp farmer when they talk about their crop getting too hot, or which is in layman's terms meaning getting above 0.03% THC, and then it's no longer a valuable crop for them.
You've got to plow it under. The law says plow it under.
Right.
I think you could burn it, but maybe not.
If it smells good, but it seems that'd be drug abuse.
All parts of that plant per se may not be testing at that particular
But my question is, when it gets, are you worried about the stalk getting above 0.3% or any part? Or just
the stalk by definition wouldn't be.
Does it get THC? Does the stalk get THC?
I think I'm not
We discussed this a little yesterday.
Yeah, I think the rule on how to actually do a qualified test, so you're not having farmers put all this effort into the grow and still needing to determine the quality and the origin of their seeds, and are they truly industrial hemp seeds and for what purpose, that they'll have to determine really the better, wiser, complete way to determine that, which is maybe grinding down different parts of the plant altogether and doing a percentage and saying, I'm just going to check the flower, or I'm just going to check a leaf,
How do you get dry weight of oil?
I have no idea. I get to know nothing.
The dry weight of oil. Okay.
They're going to come up with a volume limitations, probably, right? In terms of different methods of its form. You may have usable, not usable, wet.
What was gaseous again?
There's no such thing.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
I do know this.
There is.
I think it was specifically to slight the lawyer that presented that principle to be codified into the law, that if they send a gas of marijuana to the Michigan State Police Lab, they're not going to know what to do with it. As it
Treat it like a wet fart.
But they have that equivalent. You're talking about the equivalent they built into
Right.
Public Act 2016 283. It's Public Act 283. It was given retroactive effect, by the way. Took effect December 20th, 2016, and it.
That law cannot, or that amendment cannot be brought up enough.
Yeah.
There should be an entire project to take that and cure
all the things.
The things.
That's why I think there's gotta be.
Wait, speak in the microphone there, counselor.
Chyler, he wants you to speak into the microphone. Chyler.
There's a follow-up to the RTMA. It's just gotta come.
Yeah. Well.
What do we got left?
5 minutes.
We got 7 minutes, actually.
So you can continue hearing discussions of how do we put this crop back into use where nobody knows anything, and they could pull over a farmer and get off that tractor and bring that hemp plant with you. You're arrested until we get a result.
But I think that it is known that municipal actors.
Microphone.
I mean, it's not like the farmer can produce a simple test like they have for alcohol, where they have a data master or something like that, where the farmer can do something equivalent like that and show, hey, I'm below 0.3%. He has to send it off to a lab, right?
I don't know. In my mind, I thought you may be able to do some wild spectral analysis with some crazy laser, or maybe like something from Star Trek where it just beams it and it goes presto.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think you need right now GCMS to do it, unless they come up with a better way.
There's some light refraction that can occur in order to measure cannabinoid content.
They've got portable ones you can take out into your field and test your crop.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, an HPLC machine isn't that big. You can get some pretty small HPLC gear and, I mean, put it in the back of a truck and...
Well, I mean, that's what they need. If we're going to draw the line at...
TCMS explodes the molecules, by the way.
It goes
Oh.
And then it measures the spectrum of where they are, and they expect a similar explosion and molecular reaction when they use methanol and compare it to other similar knowns from their library. That's how it's done. So we're clear.
Yeah.
The last lab person I had up there, I had them explain what these other names were in their library when they were trying to defend that it was synthetic THC. I said, what's this right here? They said, oh, that's cannabinol. I said, so you're saying that there's a similarity here of the evidence within your own data saying that there's cannabinol in there? Yes. And you're suggesting that this still might be synthetic THC? Yes. You're suggesting that somebody knows how to make synthetic cannabinol? Silence. Right? Because in order for there to be... You got that? Did I take us? I want to talk about the lab a little bit.
The crime factory? That lab?
What are they going to do now? I mean, they were spending their 40% of their time testing marijuana.
I think it's a big
I don't think...
Well, I think isn't the better question when you look at from a perspective of the last 10 years. Let's look at it. Let's say that, past the MMA and some lawyers show up in court, and I remember a very nice judge in the Oakland County Circuit Court, somebody you don't normally hear, was a chief judge for a little while, said to me in his first case, that I should have, he told me I got to call this pot medicine. I'm saying this is 2009 May. You know what I mean? Like
The
first
marijuana.
And at the time it was instilled, disdained within the institutions, all of them. Court system. You notice how quickly they put together a medical marijuana technical violation sentencings. You didn't treat those folks like misdemeanors and felons. You see that, Alan? You know how quickly they developed that program? Not something that ever happened, right? Not a thing. We're going to treat them all the same. Technical violators, people that are doors unlocked for 10 seconds, the wet marijuana weighs too much, whatever it was. So we go 10 years, the court's still handing out sentences out here like no illegal drugs, no marijuana, no alcohol.
I was just rereading People versus Brown, which was the case that said that the police didn't have to investigate whether a person had a medical marijuana card or was otherwise legal before,
Why do they
or
say
didn't
that?
have to put
Why
that.
do they say that? What's the justification?
Well, what they said was if they had evidence that the person did have a card and was in compliance, that would have to be on the affidavit.
Clear compliance.
But otherwise, they didn't have to put anything on there.
Right.
Anyway,
They would all say they don't know for sure.
but that's part of that case. But anyway, I was rereading that case, and he was otherwise in compliance. If you look at the facts of that case, he had 8 plants, and they didn't describe him as being overweight. And they don't even describe what his violation was of the Medical Marijuana Act, but they said it must have been something that the trial court found. But they don't say it. They affirm his conviction anyway.
Yeah.
And that was the craziest part about that opinion. Or
One of
travesty
the
of
justifications
justice.
of that case was they said the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act did not legalize marijuana. It set forth immunities for a limited class of people that have been identified as severely ill.
Yeah.
And those that are in strict, unequivocal compliance with those aspects of the MA. And if you're not, the default is the public health code.
It says that, but he had a card and he
But
had
that
8
is the
plants or
justification.
something.
The idea that because medical marijuana exists in Michigan, and therefore the suspicion that of it being grown could be authorized by the state is not statistically possible because it's such a small class of people, and that clearly their compliance wouldn't involve any of these things that would make out traditional. I mean, that's really the logic. They're saying, like, we're going to ignore what our state authorized stuff as not being something that we're going to contemplate in the universal state of Michigan unusual behavior. Like,
Marijuana remains contraband.
marijuana remains contraband per se. And the fact that there's maybe a patient growing 6 plants in their basement and creates a